Okay, good morning, everyone. A warm welcome to our Abort Master, Brother Joe Huang, Hualien Dharma team, and brother and sisters around the globe. Welcome to this Saturday Hualien Dharma talk. Today, I'm Sister Mabel here, and I'll be doing the opening for this session. Okay. First, we'll be sharing Master Dharma words accepted by our sister Ho Sin Ching from Singapore, titled Give with Humble Heart and Inspire Others by Walking the Path Together. Witnessing the world's suffering, we come to understand the true meaning of life. We go deep into communities, reaching out to relieve suffering beings far and wide. Our forebears, one destitute, stretch out their hands to beg from others. At the age of 70, they met Shih and turned their hands downwards, becoming givers. They learned to donate coins into bamboo banks, diligently cultivating blessings and saving lives. Stooping low with humble hearts, they give, and through their action they live the Dharma. Through compassionate companionship, they guide others to turn their life around. Becoming self-sufficient and self-reliant, they walk the great Bodhisattva path together. Okay, Kan'en for Master Teaching. Okay, so now let us put our palms together and send our sincere prayers into the 10 direction. May the Sahaland be free from disaster and peace be well in the world. Let us sing the prayer song with sincere piousness.
In my heart, I feel deep gratefulness. All my heart is filled with sincere prayer. From all corners of the world, let us join our hearts and pray for a world of harmony and peace. In my heart, I feel deep gratefulness. May all the Buddhas hear my prayer. All united with one heart, let us end our hate with love. May there be no suffering hereafter.
Okay. May all minds be purified. May there be peace in the community. May there be no disaster in the world. Okay. Let us put our palms together to say the prayer for universal love and blessing. Together we pray for universal love and blessing. With loving respect, gratitude, and confidence, let us wish every person in our lives a healthy body, an enlightened mind, and total fulfillment in universal love. Now, let us expand this consciousness to include every person in the world, every being in the universe. Let us unify our unified love, make this wonderful world even better. Let us all immerse ourselves in the joyful embrace of universal love. Okay, before we hear the wonderful sharing, let us invite our Dharma Master to lead us in paying homage to the Triple Gem. Let us pay our respect for this teaching and explanation to Buddha and Master Chen Yen by making 3 sincere bow. Okay, please rise, palms together. First bow, second bow, and third bow. And a bow to our beloved Abode Master who joined us today. Okay, so today we have Brother Joe Huang. I will be sharing on Dharma Insight. And also we have a speaker, Nair from Malaysia, who will be sharing on People First. And we have Sister Janet and Brother Victor be sharing on A Promise in the Mountain and A Heaven for Sheep. Okay, so let us invite Sister Suching for the weekly summary. Over to you, Sister Suching. Cảm ơn.
Sister Mabel. Okay, let me bring out the file. Okay. Ivana, there are several things on this right now that is blocking my view. Okay, last week, Brother Joe says, wisdom starts the day shared by our Brother Joe, teaching us how the seeds of Dharma start to grow. He speaks of infinite meanings found in every quiet breath, guiding our spirits far beyond the final sting of death. To learn the truth, we must observe the world with care, finding the silent lessons hidden in the common air. The sutra tells us truths are many like the summer rain, helping us look inside to ease another person's pain. Walking among the crowds brings heat and some loud noise, yet a calm heart maintains its steady and bright poise. When things are smooth or rough, we find a hidden gift, giving our heavy hearts a sudden and joyful lift. He tells us slow progress is still a lovely sight, keeping the flame of wisdom burning through the dark night. With a sincere smile, he takes the burden on his back, keeping the great mission moving on the golden track. Okay, we have Sister Hui. Sister Hui shares a vision of a wider world where friendship is like a golden ribbon gently curled. She brings us news of partners from every different land, joining our hearts together with a firm and steady hand. From World Vision to Soka, we find a common goal, healing the broken pieces of a weary human soul. Trust is the magic key that opens every heavy gate, changing the dark and lonely path of a bitter fate. Sister Hui shares a vision of a wider world where friendship is like a golden ribbon gently curled. She brings us news of patterns from every different land, our hearts together with a firm and steady hand. She speaks of young leaders with fire in their eyes, reaching for higher goals under the bright blue skies. Through the IYPL, they find a purpose for their days, walking in wisdom through the thick and dusty city haze. We are the bridge that connects the many different shores to help the hungry world find what it most implores. With 19 friends now standing in the bright global sun, the work of universal love has only just begun. and then finally Brother Anthony. At the school gate stands our very dear Brother Anthony, greeting each student with a bow of sweet harmony. He does not simply talk, but shows the proper way, bringing a touch of sunshine to a cold and gray day. He invites the sleepy youth to rise at 4:30, opening up a brand new and very wide learning door. While they study their books, he learns about new AI, watching the morning stars slowly fade in the dark sky. Procrastination is the foe that we must surely fight, finding our inner strength in the soft and early light. He is the quiet companion who sits by their side, taming the heavy waves of the dark and rising tide. Confused young hearts now feel a sudden surge of pride with 7 shining A's and nowhere for fear to hide. Consistency is the seed that brings a great reward, keeping the spirit sharp like a bright and polished sword. Okay, so that's the common theme. At the core of it is putting Dharma and compassion into active practice. Kan'en, and thank you for listening. I'll stop share, hand over to Sister Moon to introduce our next speaker. Over to you, Sister Moon.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Sister Suching, as always, for another beautifully worded summary of last week's session. Good morning, all brothers and sisters. Warm welcome. It is always a pleasure for us to have the company of Brother Joe with us in our weekly study of the Sutra of Infinite Meaning. Brother Joe, I hope that conditions in Hualien has calmed, right? And that we understand that it has been a tough couple of weeks. So we are happy that to have you again with us on this platform this morning. Good morning, Brother Joe.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. It's always good to be back here. It's always good to be among friends and family to share the Dharma. I think it would seem that everything is more calm, but I think as everything is moving on, it is more important that we find the stability from the wisdom of the Dharma. And as Sister Suching was helping us to recap all the things that happened that was shared last week, you know, it does give us a lot of retrospect, looking back, and I really do think that it is one of the very important lessons in life where you are always learning. And I think on this journey, you are accumulating this experience. And does that experience carry over to become the wisdom? It's almost like, you know, the raw material had to be forged into the final product. It's almost like the vegetables and all the food items that you bought had to be prepared into a meal. So going through life, accumulating experience does not guarantee the gaining of wisdom. And there is a process, and the process requires the people around you to help you, to guide you, and most importantly, it requires many elements. You know, for example, when we're making a dish, you will require water, you will require heat, the fire, and the moisture, and also there are some seasonings. So there are always going to be things that's required to put into these food items in order for us to get the final meal prepared. And so that's how wisdom is actually filtered out of all the experiences that we have gathered. And a lot of times that this wisdom comes out from, you know, when there are chances for introspect, when there are chances for you know, to be able to look within ourselves. And I think that is very, very important. part of the process and the journey. So today I would like to continue with our Sutra of Infinite Meanings, and I think that um, last week we have been talking about um, the chapter 2, and we've been talking about chapter 2 for a while, and I think we've come to a stop where um, this happens often in the conversation between the teacher and the student. But I think in this chapter, in the Sutra of Infinite Meaning, chapter 2 represents a, I think it represents a double take. And what does that mean? It means that, the main student, the great magnificent Bodhisattva, asked the question, how do we become the Buddha? How do we achieve Buddhahood? And the Buddha answered the question. Usually it ends there. Usually that is enough. Usually that is all that there is, right? So the Buddha gave the answer, and that would be it. But in the Sutra of Infinite Meanings, there is a double take, meaning that after the Buddha gave the answer, I think it's even more important that the great magnificent Bodhisattva, the student, responded Buddha's answer with yet another question. And I think this is very important in that a lot of times, we might think the words spoken by our teacher to be something that's irrefutable, something that you take for as is. Whatever the teacher says, the student will believe it unconditionally. And that is true because the Buddha spoken the true words, and it should be believed, it should be trusted, and we should have faith in what the Buddha teaches. However, it is true that when you have to deliver this teaching to others, that there are going to be questions, there are going to be doubts, there are going to be, verbal challenges to what the Buddha is saying now. And so that's what the great magnificent Bodhisattva responded in question. And that's what we see in chapter 2. It's this back and forth and back. So there's another chance for the Buddha to answer the second question. And that's the whole context of where we are in chapter 2. So once again, going through the sections, in this chapter, we see that section 1 talks about what Dharma door should they practice. And that is the question that was posed by the great magnificent Bodhisattva, the student. That's the question. And so the Buddha spent the next 3 sections talking about answering the question. So this Dharma door is called the Infinite Meanings. And for anyone that would like to practice this Dharma door, that you would be able to reach Buddhahood eventually. And what do you do with this Dharma door? You walk through it, and the things you need to do is to observe closely, observe all the things, the people around you. Then you will find that people are very different. You'll find the minute details of everything, and then you will observe again. You will see more. You will see why they're suffering. You will see where they're stuck. You will find all these things upon which you are going to have this compassion. You see the people, and then you see what's wrong. And I think that is what's happening. Weeks ago, it was, the Tzu was in the news. And for the last 2 weeks, for the last week or so, it's a completely different news. It's almost like the news cycle is different. And now it's about the daughter of the previous president and her marital dispute with her ex-husband. And I look at this and I feel sad. I feel that the whole society is been, taken, it's been led by what is the news, what is in the news, and what is the newest news that is leading, the attention of the people. And I don't mean this is a bad or a good. I just mean that I see this, and I think that the news should be guiding us to something that might be more important, something that should be bigger, something that should have more influential over not just our lives but the world. And so we all have these feelings, right? We have these feelings. We have um, uh, this perspective when we're able to calmly observe. When you are in the middle of it, it is difficult for us to calmly observe. But when we are sort of standing on the sideline, you're able to see this clearly. And when you're seeing this, the bodhisattvas will see the problems. And then it is something that's natural out of them to be willing and wanting to relieve the suffering and try to fix the problem. And that's where the Buddha was explaining that we all have this inherent nature, this nature of goodness, this nature of kindness in us, that we want to do more for those people that are suffering, that are not doing so well. And that is the key. I believe that we spoke about the idea of infinite. The infinite. What is infinite? Number one, that we have this infinite kindness in us, that we are willing and wanting to relieve suffering. But our levels of this kindness and compassion varies. Some people will require witnessing something that is, very, very heartbroken for them to have this compassion. Some people, all they need to do is to see something, and that's enough. Their compassion will flow out of them. So we have different levels of awakened compassion or awakened kindness, but we all have it in us. And that is something that the Buddha was trying to drive on, is that in order for you to sort of keep on advancing continuously on this very, very long journey, you need something that drives you. And this is what drives you. You would always be able to see the suffering in others. For those others that are cultivating themselves, once you get through one problem, you are okay. But when you're among people, you will always be seeing their problems, non-stopping. That's where you're able to continuously drive your compassion, letting your compassion drive you forward. And that is where the infiniteness comes in. So in here, in section 3, Buddha continued to explain, when you observe closely, you will see the suffering in others. And naturally, the compassion, the kindness will come out of you to be wanting to do more. That's where the expounding of the Dharma comes in. And that's where the force, the driving force behind all this. So then this is what is true in word and principle and unsurpassing honor. This is talking about the teaching that the Buddha was talking about in response to the question, what Dhamma door? Which Dhamma door? So this is the teaching that is true in word. What that means is Buddhas, we all have this Buddha nature in us that is true. There is a degree of how much of that Buddha nature is awakened within us, but we all have it. Some people is awakened, their Buddha nature is awakened more than others. Some people just have more inherent, wisdom or compassion than others, right? Some people see things and they are not moved, while others will be quickly moved. Some people have more wisdom than others. So the different levels of this awakened Buddha nature exists among people, but we all have it. And this is true. We have to believe this. And in order to walk among people, to try to teach and guide them, this is something that we believe in, right? This is something that we believe in, something to be sustainable, something to be true. And so that goes into section 5. Now, this is, I believe, a major twist, because this is where, after the Buddha answered all the questions, you would think that that would be it. You would think that that would be all, but it's not. Instead, the student comes back with, another question. And this question isn't asking about what was just said. It's not like, the teacher just taught us multiplication and I'm asking about, well, how does that work? No, it's not. It's actually the student asking, actually, we knew about this. What you taught us, we sort of know, we sort of understand. So what is the difference between what was taught in the past and now? For you, for the teacher to call this to be the most true and the utmost in honor, the most profound teaching. So this is something that is very direct, from the student. Well, I understand what you said, Buddha, but it begs the question, what is the difference? You've been teaching us, this for a long time. And yet you talked about today, the lesson being more important. So let's talk about this. So that's what be talking about. Buddha had answered the questions. How do you readily achieve Buddhahood, right? So observe, communicate, see the truth, understand the truth, right? And so that's what we've been talking about. So what do we think of Buddha's answer? I think this is important, right? We need to observe, we need to communicate, and we need to see the truth. The truth is there are a lot of sufferings. There are a lot of changes. You need to adapt, you need to observe and communicate. Talk about it, think about it, act on it. What do? You see and you observe and you act. You inspire this, this compassion, right? So it all sounds wonderful, right? Well, except, right? So the Buddha told us to observe. Naturally, we are going to asking questions. So the question that was asked by the student was, first of all, the Dharma you teach, right, from the student is inconceivable. The capacity and natures of sentient beings are also inconceivable. It's very, very deep, very, very profound, right? The liberation to the Dhamma door is also inconceivable, right? We understand and we don't have doubts, right? So there is the Dharma, there's the capacities, and there's the liberations, right? So there is the Dharma, which is the teaching that was given. There's the capacity. This is changes among all the people. And then imagine that, right? The Dharma is the input, the capacity is the function, and the liberation is the output. So imagine that there is this black box in the middle, right? You put in the Dharma, and then you put in this black box, and then out comes liberation. Now imagine that all these black boxes are different, right? Everybody, their capacity is considered to be different, right? So you put in the Dharma and all the boxes are different. And out comes liberation. It's all the same. That's where it's profound, right? This is very profound. This is inconceivable. The Dharma that comes in looks the same. And the capacities are all different. Yet the end result supposedly will carry everyone to liberation. How is that possible, right? How is that possible? So that's where the Dharma itself is very profound. The teaching is profound, right? So the student keep on saying, however, because sentient beings' minds give rise to delusion. Because you tell them one thing, and then they listen, and then they hear another. So therefore, the student asks again. It's all very inconceivable, right? The great magnificent Bodhisattva had to ask the question on behalf of all. So you have often expounded for sentient beings the meaning of the four states of the existence of all things. So this is what the teacher, the student, the great magnificent Bodhisattva, he's now recounting what was just said, right? So he's making a comparison between what he just heard and what he had learned throughout the years, throughout the 4 decades of teaching. So he's saying, Buddha, you have often expounded the 4 states of existence, right? So the becoming, the birth of it, the becoming, the change, and then finally cessation. So the 4 different states of all things. You've talked about this. You have often expounded, right, the 4 states, and this was said earlier, right? All part of the most profound, right? So all these were there, right? So you have taught about the meaning of suffering, right? You've talked about the meaning of emptiness, impermanence, no self. And there's no large, small, no arising, ceasing. Everything is about appearance, right? This was also said, right? So he's basically saying that you said this, you said this, you said this, right? The nature of all things and the appearance of all things have always been empty. So this was all talking about before, right? This was said earlier, all part of the, all part of this very profound teaching. So the student is slowly building his case, right? He's saying in the first part of the Buddha's reply, you have already said all of this. You have already said all of this, right? The great magnificent Bodhisattva, the student, is saying, teacher, this sounds great, but you are just repeating yourself. All had been said before, right? So he continued to say, of those who have heard these teachings, some have acquired warmth Dharma, the pinnacle Dharma, the foremost in the Dharma, in the world Dharma. So basically, everybody heard the same thing, and they achieved different goals, right? So this is where we're talking about. Remember the 3 things we talked about? The Dharma, the capacity, and the liberation, right? Remember, what are the difference? The difference is the capacities, the black boxes. Input is the Dharma. Different boxes, outputs different things. Liberation. Some people acquire warmth Dharma, some people acquire pinnacle Dharma, and some people acquire the foremost in the world Dharma, right? So all those followed the teachings also acquire much learning in terms of cultivation. So you right away see that it's not over yet, because the result is supposed to be leading to only one door, right? So Dharma comes in, the black boxes that represents everybody, every individual, every sentient beings are different. So the Dharma that comes in, the input that comes into all these different boxes is supposed to come out different, right? The warmth Dharma, the pinnacle Dharma, everybody gets different things. Everybody acquire and achieved different learning, different terms of cultivation. But that's not the right thing. The right thing should be, you should be getting to the final stage, which is liberation. But anyway, he continued. Some have attained the fruits of all these different parts of liberation. So these are all very different, right? So in another word, the 3 things we talked about, the Dharma, the capacities, and the liberation. In another word, it is true. The Dharma is the same, the capacities are different, but the liberation depends on the level. So some have acquired the warmth, right here, the warmth Dharma, the pinnacle Dharma, the foremost in the world Dharma, and some of them have attained the fruits of all these different levels of achievements. And that's true. Some even have developed bodhicitta and ascended to the first ground, the second, the third, or even the 10th ground of bodhisattva. So right away, you know that the Buddha spoke the same Dharma, and yet the results are all very different. So the great magnificent bodhisattva continued to talk about this case. So what the Buddha taught before, it indeed helped many practitioners, right? It was a successful lesson because we all achieved different levels of cultivation. The Dharma is the same. The capacities are different. Therefore, the levels of liberation are different. That's what the student was saying. The Dharma is the same. The capacities of individuals are different. And therefore, very naturally, the levels of liberations are different. So he goes for the final question. So what is the difference in the meaning between all the Dharma you have taught and what you have stated today? Nothing changed. You've been telling us the same thing for 40 years, right? This profound, unsurpassed, great vehicle sutra of infinite meaning, such that the bodhisattvas who practice it are sure to readily attain unsurpassed bodhi. What you said today, you have been saying for the past 40 years. So when I ask the question, how do we get there? Why are you giving me this answer? The same answer that you have been giving everybody for the past 40 years. How do you explain the difference, right? So please, teacher, out of loving kindness and sympathy for all, please make this distinction. What is the distinction? What is the distinction? If the things you have said is exactly the same as what you said 4 decades ago, then what is the difference, right? What is the distinction for all sentient beings, enabling those who hear the Dharma in the present or future to have no web of doubts remaining? All right, so that's section 5. And I think this is very, very important, right? This is very important in that to understand the Sutra of Infinite Meanings, this is the key. I think the key was this is the formula, right? This is the formula here. This is the formula, right? You had the same Dharma that you've been talking about for the 40 years. You have different capacities with all the individuals. That is why all the individuals come out differently. Now, look at all this. I'm asking, well, if you're talking about this is the most profound, the most important teaching, then why are we listening to the same thing again? This is the same teaching that you have giving us 40 years ago. And now you're calling this teaching to be the most profound. Well, what gives? Why? Okay, so that's the question that the great magnificent Bodhisattva is asking, right? So he presents his case. If this teaching is so good, how about the all one? Because they're the same, right? The one that got many people enlightened. That was the same, right? What is the difference in meaning between all the Dhamma you have taught in the past and what you have stated today? You talk about bodhisattvas who practice it are sure to readily attain unsurpassed bodhi. Well, then how about the teachings in the past 40 years? Does that mean that if you follow the teachings in the past 42 years, that you wouldn't be able to readily attain unsurpassed bodhi? Then why didn't you just teach us this right then, right? Why? So true, real, remember, this is the focus of the sutra, right? Do we really know what is the same and what is not? And that is the key. All right, so that's the sharing for today. I'm sorry, I have another meeting that's coming up, but that's the sharing for today. And I really would love to continue, to continue onto this particular content because I think that it is important that we are seeing that we are beginning to get to the very core part of the Sutra of Infinite Meanings. So we'll continue on to chapter 6, and the Buddha is going to use another 3 chapters to explain what is the difference and how this Dharma actually really works. All right, so stay tuned, and we're going to be coming back to that. Thank you, and have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Joe. This Dharma thing is indeed so deep, yeah, and we can only try to follow and understand as much as we can in this lifetime of ours. But we start a path, and we will get there. Thank you, brother. If we can just take this opportunity to ask Brother Joe to stay just a short while more for taking a group photo with everybody. Can we all switch on your video? Is that okay, Mabel? Sister, why is it?
Sister Mabel.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Brother Joe, and have a good day. But next we would like to move to our next sharer. Our next sharer is Naavish Nair. Good morning, Naavish. Good morning, Naavish. Yeah. Now, just give me a little time because I really want to introduce Naavish as much as little as I know from what I glean in your CV, because you have such a powerful CV. Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong afterwards. All right. Naavish comes with an impressive CV. Young, excellent academic achievement. He has first-class honors at Help University in mass communication. Strong in digital technology, very driven by that. Innovative and has demonstrated very clear leadership qualities. But yet you also find space in your time to do volunteer work. Example, I think you have done volunteer work with the Satya Sai Babas at the Satya Sai Baba Center. And it's not just a touch and go thing. I think it's a very commendable project that you did. You follow a whole estate of people who needed help and see them through, and that it is effective and that they truly benefited from the help that was offered to them. And I think that speaks a lot, because a lot of us thinks that volunteer is just chat, touch and go. I come here, do a little bit, I go there, do a little bit, yeah. And from all the your mentors and the recommendations written by your superiors, the common thread that I see is that you always place people first, and I think that will be the title of your sharing today. It's an awesome title, and to quote and unquote one of your mentor, you're someone who understands the human element, and really today we need people and we need leaders who can do that. Because it's all about technology. We are all trying, we're all essentially learning to be more and more robots. And we need the human element in the things that we do. So Navish, we look forward to learning from you something new this morning. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Sister Choi Moon. Hello, everybody. Good morning. My name is Navish. I woke up today with a little bit of a sore throat, so please bear with my husky voice for this presentation this morning. I would ideally prefer if this session is a little bit more interactive, but I understand also that normally there would not be a lot of Q&As. But having said that, throughout this next half an hour or so, if you guys have any questions along the way, please feel free to just unmute yourselves and ask along, and we can continue with it being a little bit interactive. But nevertheless, I will continue the session with what I have already prepared. So let me just quickly share my screen. Okay. I believe you guys can see my screen now. Okay. The content that I will be speaking about today will be first. I will start with a bit of a self-introduction so that all of you know who I am, and then secondly, I'll be talking about one of the programs that I was quite inspired with within Shih organization, which is the IDDate program in Malaysia here, and how we use that same program as part of our action and plan initiative under the IYLP program to curate some STEM related content and a workshop for the IDDate students. And then I'll touch a little bit very briefly about the grand mission of Shih and how it relates to me. And then I'll move on into a topic that I hold very dearly, which is what it means to be patriotic. So yes, people first, but within the context of patriotism or nationalism, and what are the challenges that marginalized youths face within the developing world, and how actually Shih has already addressed some of this in a very profound manner. So without further ado, let me move on to the first slide. So yes, from the introduction earlier, I am a first class honors student, but beyond that, I've already been working in the corporate world for about 6 years. In about a month or two, I'll be officially in the I will officially be done with a complete 6 year of working experience. Very briefly, I started my career in Samsung Malaysia Electronics, where I started off as a management associate. And rotated across several different departments, mainly within the project management and sales divisions in Samsung. And after that, I graduated into the project management division and handled a few different tech initiatives throughout my entire 6 years, not just within Samsung. After Samsung, I left to a local tech company called Asia Mobility that operates within public transport. And a huge reason why I decided to move into this industry is to learn a little bit more about the SDGs and see how public transport can actually help greenify the world, and how it can reduce congestion, and what are some of the merits, and at the same time trickle down economics of using public transport. So the technology that we use is at its core trying to reduce congestion and trying to make information more viable to people who use public transports, and therefore the clients that we deal with are typically people within that industry of the public transport operators and the state governments, and also private entities who would like to use public transport. But yes, beyond the nitty-gritty of working in corporate Malaysia, I was first introduced to Shih via the IYLP program last year in 2025, when it all started when I saw an Instagram advertisement about the program, and to be very honest, while reading the description, I didn't know what I was signing up for, because all it said was International Youth Leadership Program. And I found it quite fascinating, because in the first line of the description of the program, it said to create global citizens, and not just citizens that represent your own country, or not just develop knowledge within your own industry, and advocating the SDG and sustainability lifestyle for everyone within Asia, and the slightly bigger cohort group. And from there, I was then slowly intrigued by each different elements of Shih that I was over time introduced with. And so therefore, occasionally, whenever I'm free throughout the weekends, or even some weekdays, I would try to be be a volunteer under some of the initiatives by Shih, which I will speak about later on. But yes, this is a brief self-introduction about myself. So my first non-IYLP interaction with Shih came via the IDDate program. Or Didik in Bahasa Malaysia means educate. And this is an outreach program that was created by the Shih Kuala Lumpur and Selangor branches, where during COVID, so from what I understand, during COVID, when it was the peak of COVID, I think within 2021, 2022 period, there were a lot of underprivileged communities within the ecosystem of KL and Selangor that did not have adequate access to education, because the schools were closed, and a lot of the learnings were converted into online, and some of them do not have the necessary tools to go online because they are from the underprivileged community. So what Shih did at that particular time was they congregated a group of volunteers who range from a wide range of background, but most of them came from the education background. A lot of them are actually teachers or mentors in their own capacity, and at the same time provided technical support. So they reached out to all of the underprivileged communities and identified how many of them needed the basic tools like computers or smartphones or even data packages, and provided this technical support towards the students. And the main goal or the main purpose of this outreach program was to provide weekly classes to the students during COVID, and it was primarily focused on mathematics, English, and Bahasa Malaysia, which is our national language, and it followed the national education curriculum. And I believe there are roughly about 1,000 students. I'm not sure of the exact number of the recipients of the IDDate program who has been benefiting from the weekly classes that is conducted by Jieh. And I believe this program is still ongoing. But more than that, what intrigued me is two aspects of it. One is the whole dissemination of the volunteers and also the commitment of the volunteers to understand the importance of education, particularly among the vulnerable communities, and to dedicate their time and resources to wanting to help and assist the students. And especially when you're doing it online and you're trying to engage with the students, it is not something that is an easy feat. It's not something that you can easily try to educate them, particularly when you're trying to teach them like basic numbers or basic curriculums on English and Bahasa Malaysia. But more than that, that holistic education aspect that beyond just teaching them what is in the academic syllabus, the teachers are also trained to instill some of the humanistic values and the cultures of Shih that goes along that academic modules. And the reason why I could resonate or I could relate when I heard about this program is because, as you mentioned earlier, sister, during the introduction, this was something that I did for the best part of 3 years under another association called the Sai Baba Association, where for 3 years, every Sunday, I would go to a particular estate in Malaysia, and we would conduct weekly classes for the students within the estate. Our target audience in that particular group was mainly the primary school students, mainly those aged between 10 to 12. And the reason why we target that group of students is because at that time, although the national curriculums has just changed, but students at 12 years old are required to sit for a national examination called UPSR. And only if you pass that exam can you enter into secondary one, or I think some international schools calls it the seventh standard. And if you fail your UPSR, then you are going to go through an entire year of removal class where you learn basic English and Bahasa Malaysia, and you try to catch up with your friends. But the repercussion of that is basically you go through one entire year of, or you graduate one entire academic year behind your peers or your fellow colleagues of the same age. And the reason why we decided to penetrate into that particular estate is because the estate themselves reached out to us and said like, oh, we need this assistance, we need some help, because the academic results of most of the students at that particular time, so this was in 2016, the academic results was not too good, so they asked us to come in January of 2017. And my role as the program coordinator was to disseminate my group of volunteers. I had 44 volunteers and I had about 27 students. Yes, Stephanie, I see your hand raised. Do you have a question?
Stephanie, do you want to ask a question? I think you.
Okay, yeah, maybe it's an accident. Okay, so I will continue. But if you would like to unmute yourself later on, feel free to just interject. So yeah, the point or the story that I was sharing here is in 2016, the academic result was not too good, and the school reached out to us and said, "Oh, we may need some assistance," and it it's an entire ecosystem or pool of problems where it is not just the students coming to school and learning, but the entire estate per se had a lot of social issues and economic frailties that may prevent them from escaping the threat of poverty. And while we would love to focus on all of the other elements, the estate manager intervened and said that, oh, you are instead of repairing their homes or doing some minor renovation work that can be done within their area, he preferred if we just only stayed in the school and preferred if we educated the students in whatever capacity that we are able to. And the reason for that is because within the particular estate in itself, there's already a socio-economic framework where the people who get the housing from the estate is supposed to work within the factory, and therefore, because the productivity of the factory increases, then they can fund and develop the housing. But with a lot of socio-economic problems, and at the same time with the attitudes of some of the seniors within the community of not wanting to go to work, and also being indulged in gangsterism, being indulged in like alcoholism and drug problems, they then decide to rebel and decide not to go, and at the same time not wanting to vacate the housing that is already provided. So that's why the understanding was we can only penetrate to the school and educate the children there, because children should not be left behind. But having said that, with that commitment from my volunteers of coming on a weekly basis and providing those classes, we also continued it not just by providing education. We also did some education workshops and some education camps beyond just the weekly tutorial classes that lasted for about 2 to 3 hours. And relatively proudly, we can say that in 2017, 18, and 19, we had zero failures. But that's also largely through the independence of the school of wanting to do all of their initiatives. And at the same time, we could see the commitment from the school teachers that now the students are slightly interested in learning, that the school teachers, and these are government school teachers who perhaps live within the vicinity or slightly outside the vicinity, they were willing to stay a little bit longer and provide additional support for the students who needed it. And yes, so none of them failed their UPSR, and all of them managed to enter secondary one the next year. And so therefore, when I was introduced to the ID-Date program, I could see a lot of similarities within what Saji does, and within something that I've already been very familiar with in leading an initiative with that. So having understood this ID-Date program, as part of our IYLP program, we are required to do an action and practice initiative where we are trying to spread the SDGs in a proper practical approach. And so we then reached out, so people from my cohort and my group mates reached out to the coordinators of the ID-Date program and said, hey, we have got some contacts in individuals or groups who are able to conduct STEM education. Can we then collaborate with you guys and select a handful of recipients who will be able to attend a guided STEM workshop? And everything worked out fine. Everything worked out well. What we did was we organized a 9-week in total program or workshop initiation organized by this group called Arus Academy. They specialize in providing STEM education for anybody who's willing to learn. So while they focus on children, they said in some of their modules, they even have content that can assist for adults who are willing to learn about the basics of STEM. And so, with the assistance of the ID-Date group, we managed to congregate 21 students from the secondary school, and their age range are 13 to about 17 years old, to come and attend this workshop where on a weekly basis for 8 weeks, the Arus Academy would provide 3-hour workshop sessions for the students to learn on simple STEM or simple coding initiatives. And I attended about 4 of this workshop alongside the students to just help guide and help facilitate. And what I noticed was the commitment level from the students and also the basic knowledge and the inquisitiveness from the students was very high, that the knowledge they gain, because I do not attend every session and I only come in like say session number 2 and session number 6, 7, like that. So I am not able to follow the syllabus because it is literally a technical based syllabus. And sometimes when the students get stuck and they just raise their hand and say like, oh, hi teacher, I may not be able to follow this and I may need some guidance. I am not able to assist them, and therefore the knowledge that they've already um they've already gained throughout that entire few weeks of me meeting them has already surpassed the basic knowledge that I myself had. And so therefore only the people from the Arus Academy was able to assist them and guide them with their projects. But after the 8th week, we gathered the students for a product exhibition where they had to showcase their own group project, where some of the students worked in groups of 2 and groups of 3 to create their own initiative to write simple codes, and using that codes they managed to turn on light bulbs, they managed to open up doors, or to automate some sensories that can get things to work in a certain way. So one of the groups that I was quite fascinated with was they incubated a flooding, or a village that could flood. And when the water level reaches a certain point, then a door, or the dam will open and the water could seep out. So they did it via a huge container, like a 2 meter square wide container, and they designed it into like a village setting. They put artificial trees, and they made it a little bit uh, blocked. And then they sprayed water in, and the water was not being able to flow in one section of the container. And so when the water level reached a certain point, with the sensors that the students have already built in through their knowledge that they gain from this sessions, and then the dam or the wall could rise up and the water could seep out, and they put a basket down there to collect the water. And just seeing that innovation from the students made me realize that, okay, there is potential in all of these students. Mind you, a lot of them came from the underprivileged communities, and some of the students here even are refugees themselves, or came from different UN programs that required some form of engagement. And the outcome from this program is the students, when we reached out to them at the end of the 9th weeks and asked them, how did you feel about this? They said, oh, it was great, it was engaging, we learned a lot of fun initiative, and now you could see the inquisitiveness in them wanting to further their education, or pursue more knowledge on coding and on STEM as a whole. And one proud statistics that we gather from this is 11 of the 10 students were females, and therefore it is also within the consistent line of trying to get more female participation within the STEM ecosystem. Okay, so why I would like to, and I'm sure moving on to the next element of the grand mission of Jieh, I'm pretty sure all of you here are very well versed with this, and I'm only about 1 to 2 years within the association. But the 4 pillars, or the 4 grand mission of Jieh, being charity, medicine, education, and humanistic center. At the beginning of my sharing, I briefly mentioned that I am somebody that is very patriotic in nature, and I would like to affiliate myself as a nationalist. And when I then try to look at what are my personal values and how does that then equate to Shih, and this is the question that I've been asking myself since I was introduced to Shih, and then seeing the pillars of like charity and at the same time the humanistic culture, and how all of that is also incorporated within education, and the IDD program in itself speaks volumes about it. I could then see how these values could also translate towards being more patriotic. So then I asked myself, if I define myself as a nationalistic person, what truly are elements of patriotism or of nationalism that I believe equates to me being a patriot. And these are the five points or five values that I can associate with. So the first one is community service. So what does community service means? Volunteering your time, your resources to help your fellow citizens or improve your local neighborhood. So that means volunteering in like soup kitchens, volunteering in neighborhood cleanup initiatives, and basically helping your community grow whenever there is something of a community-led initiations. Second one would be civic responsibility. So this includes things like fulfilling your duty as a Democrat to vote in your parliament or in your state constituency, paying taxes, obeying the laws, and also participating in local governance. So in some countries, you've got things like jury duty. In most countries, there is a minimum tax amount that you have to pay when you earn a certain amount, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is because there are a large group of people who try to evade taxes or who basically try to bend the laws to avoid being civically responsible. The third element will be cultural respect. So coming from Malaysia, we come from a very diverse background where we've got multiple languages, we've got multiple races and multiple religions that is being showcased in Malaysia, and therefore the cultural respect here would be respecting our diversity and using our diversity as our strength instead of arguing as towards who's more dominant or what is some elements that may conflict from other elements. And this strength of the diversity can come within economic opportunities. So because of the linguistic capabilities of Malaysians, can we then attract different types of foreign investors who will be able to speak different types of languages or dialects to come and invest within our country. The fourth element will be the national unity of standing up with one another and coming together and trying to promote peace within our nation and do it during national celebration. So what is one thing that I do within this framework that is also consistent with building national unity and Shih would be during festive periods. So I explained earlier that Malaysia has got multiple races. So festive periods towards the Indian community, I would then invite my non-Indian friends towards my house to just use it as an excuse to get like a multiracial pot within my house and have that interaction and explain to them like although primarily everyone is there to celebrate and to have meals, I would just insert elements of like, oh, the reason why we celebrate so and so festival is because of this, and then there is some epic tale behind all of that, and this is how our community evolved from thousands of years ago to today. And then that small story I can see throughout the years have expand the curiosity of my friends, or at least my inner circle. And I feel that can be the catalyst in trickling down a more accepted and a more united friend group that I have. And the last element will be constructive criticism, which is basically speaking up for marginalized community, and identifying that there will always be some disagreements that we may have with our peers and with our country as a whole. And what are some of the avenues that we can champion to facilitate that? And that is something that I believe is very prominent within the marginalized community. So I've already explained so much about the ID program, but in essence, marginalized communities, they are oftentimes within their own enclaves. So in Malaysia, for example, or even in the United States and all, there will always be certain enclaves in neighborhoods where we are all aware that that is where the underprivileged group stays, or that's where the underprivileged community just do their own interactions. And sometimes when these communities are excluded from the larger public or the larger neighborhood, that is when we create a systemic grievance and also encourage them to go into extremism or or go into activities that may result in like gangsterism, in alcoholism, or in drug related problems. And so to break that entire cycle and to assimilate that enclaves with the larger community is where we need community adoption programs, which is what I've explained a little bit with the IDD program, and also with the initiations that I've done with my Cyberbug associations of upskilling programs and education-led initiatives. And when we are able to penetrate within that segment, we then create two ripple down effects of the recipients of from that community will then have economic empowerment, because now they've got education, and now with these upscaling programs they can actually contribute back by paying taxes towards the country. And at the same time, as beneficiaries of this, they can then return towards that same community and as alumni and say that okay, I can now be the mentors for all of you. And with all of that, we then assimilate these groups back into society, and we can then break that cycle of poverty and break that cycle of extreme vulnerabilities within those groups. And just a very quick sharing, I know I only have 1 more minute left. I was privileged enough to interview a recipient of the Al Manahli International School, which is a school by Shih foundation in Turkey to assist with Syrian refugees in Turkey. And Ahmad here, the recipient of it, he went through a long list of hardship because he fled his country in 2014, and for a good 6 years he did not have proper education, and he was working in a shoe factory. But because the program was quite blessed and they managed to absorb him and he managed to complete his education, um, the key point I took away from Ahmad is he learned that regardless on our differences, a Buddhist-led association can help him as a Muslim in the Middle East, and can give him education and can make him complete his high school. Today, he said when Syria's situation is slightly better and all the refugees is able to return back, he wants to bring Shih and be a Shih volunteer into Syria and to show the world that, hey, I have benefited from this. And it is not just with our cultural, our linguistic, and our religious differences. We can actually work together as one humanistic family in trying to make the world a slightly better place and make his community and his country a slightly better place. With that, thank you so much, brothers and sisters. I think I will end my sharing here.
Thank you, Naavish, so much. Yes, you really live the people first slogan, right? Now, I think that the one that stands out in the presentation is the word patriotic, right? For all the things that we are doing, and it's especially from coming from a young person, that you realize that in serving others, we are all patriotic in every way and in every sense of the word. And I'm very glad that we have people like you around, Naavish. Good job, and we wish you all the best in IYLP, and we look forward to your continued service and that you will be successful going forward. All right, thank you so much, Naavish. Right, and can we next welcome our none other than our beloved brother Victor and sister Janet from the US. We are always grateful to brother Victor and sister Janet for taking time and effort to always share with us stories and lessons from halfway across the world, irrespective of what time difference we are, right? Okay, brother Victor and sister Janet, over to you now.
Okay, dear beloved Masters and Yen, above Masters, Global Shih family, and online listeners. Good morning. What a wonderful day for everyone. This is Victor Jieh. My Dharma name is Jieh.
This is Jenny Ya, and my Dharma name is Shih Ya. We are from Great Love Radio. Today, we would like to share a story with you. A story is connected to the mountain and the forest of the California.
Oh, yes. As Californians, We all know that wildfires have become more and more frequent over the past several years. One of the major reasons is climate change. During period of the drought, the grass and the vegetation in the mountains become extremely dry. So once they catch fire, the flame can quickly spread and turn into large forest fires.
So wildfires have become increasingly a serious threat in California. There are many ways to prevent wildfires, but in recent years, California has been trying a rather unusual and natural method of the wildfire prevention. Let me bring the goat and the sheep onto the hillside to eat the dry grass and the vegetation. Yes, use the sheep to help prevent the wildfire.
Today, I want to share a very touching story with you. This is a true story. It happened in the mountains of California, and it involves a very special group of animals, a flock of sheep. This story began with something called community kindness and the collective action. We discovered this story through our own interviews. Let me first show you the picture. When you see this group of sheep standing together in a pen, what comes to your mind? I think each of us might have a little different thought or even a little different idea about what we can do, right? In Southern California, at the Zhi Foundation Farm, the volunteers noticed a sign on the farmland directly across from their farm. The sign said that the land was for sale.
So these caring and compassionate people immediately become concerned. They thought, if this farmland is sold, what will happen to the more than 90 sheep? They are certainly grazing there. Where will they go? The people at the Zhi Foundation quickly began asking the question, and they soon discovered that the shepherd really had nowhere else to take the sheep. To take the matter even more urgent, so at that time, Christmas was just around the corner. So the shepherd had no choice but to sell the sheep. And if someone didn't rescue them quickly, they will mostly be sold for the meat. So this compassionate volunteer immediately took action. They had only 3 days to raise enough money to buy the sheep. And then they also had to build a safe shelter for them. It became a real race against time.
Yeah, the volunteers immediately established an animal sanctuary at the farm. Everyone jumped into action. There was already a greenhouse on the farm that had been used to grow vegetables. So they decided to move the vegetable to another area and transform the greenhouse into a shelter for the sheep. They literally had to move the garden so that the sheep could have a place to live. The volunteers worked incredibly hard to create a shelter that was clean, well ventilated, and comfortable. They bought the materials themselves and built the shelter with their own hands. They also helped move the vegetable garden and prepare the new place for the sheep. And they didn't just put up a simple shelter. They had to install drainage pipe underneath the shelter so that rainwater wouldn't collect and flood the sheep's living area. All of this had to be completed in just 3 days.
3 days.
3 days to get everything ready before the sheep arrived.
So the volunteer quickly began recruiting more people to help. The message to the neighbors was very simple. We discovered the sheep across from the farm may be sent to the skeleton house. Please come and help us to save them. And the people responded. Some contributed money, others contributed their time, their energy, and their skill. Everyone come together to prepare for the arrival of the ship. You could really see how many kind-hearted people there were in the neighborhood. Volunteers come together, divided up to the work, went out to buy the material, and started building the ship, the shelter, and become it happened during the holiday season. Many people were willing to give up their holiday time to help with this urgent rescue.
Well, then something wonderful and completely unexpected happened. Many of the rescued sheep were already pregnant. Within just 4 months after they were rescued, they gave birth to more than 40 lambs. Wow. So the volunteer didn't just save the lives of those 98 sheep, they also saved the life of more than 40 little lambs who had not even been born yet. The volunteer now had a whole new challenge. They had to learn how to care for newborn lambs. Some even learned how to become sheep mothers, feeding and caring for the babies. They also had to learn how to help the sheep give birth and how to care for the mothers afterwards. Eventually, they even organized a small medical care team for the animals.
The original materials area was also remodeled and upgraded into the nursery for the sheep mothers and their baby. The mother could give the birth and nurse their baby in a safe and a comfortable environment. But there is something important I want to point out. This volunteer only needed. We didn't know anything about the take care of the sheep, but they were complete beginners. They had no professional experience with the livestock, but because they care so deeply about this animal, they were willing to learn. They learned everything they need to know step by step, simply because they want to protect this life.
So there was also another little story within this story. Before the shepherd sold the flock to the farm, he had already sold 3 sheep to other people. The volunteers didn't want to leave those 3 sheep behind, so they searched everywhere to find them. Eventually, they found the 3 sheep and even offered more money to buy them back. Why? Because they didn't want those 3 sheep to end up on someone's dinner table. They wanted to save every single life they could. Of course, sheep need food. And what do sheep love to eat? Give it a guess. Grass. But when you have more than 100 sheep and you need a tremendous amount of grass, every time they need to purchase enough grass to feed the flock, it could cost around 40,000 US dollars. That's a huge expense.
So meanwhile, in Northern California, the Foods Foundation has another special place. It is the place where rescued animals can live out the rest of their life in safety and peace. But there is a problem. During the summer, the here in the Northern California can become the covered with the dry grass and vegetation. And as we all know, dry grass can easily fuel the wildfire. Normally, a professional vegetation cleaning company would have to be a higher to remove the all that dry vegetation. They could cost around $40,000. But there was another option. They could bring in about the 300 sheep to eat the grass. It could take about the 3 months for the sheep to naturally clean the vegetation.
So let's think about this. In Southern California, they were spending $40,000 to buy grass to feed the sheep. In Northern California, they need to spend $40,000 to hire someone to remove the grass. Then someone had a great idea. Why don't we rescue the sheep from Southern California to Northern California to eat the grass? Just as I mentioned earlier, using sheep and goats to naturally clear all dry vegetation has become an increasingly popular way to help prevent wildfire in California. What a wonderful idea! But then came another major challenge. How do you transport more than 100 sheep from Southern California to Northern California? There are professional companies that transport livestock. Originally, the plan was to put dozens of sheep together into large transport trucks. But the volunteers couldn't bear to treat the sheep that way. Even though they were not professional, they were extremely careful. They transported the sheep in small groups, making sure they were safe and comfortable throughout the journey.
So eventually the ship arrived at Northern California. When they got there, they found plenty of the dry grass covering in the hillside. Finally, the ship had plenty of the food to eat. But there was another problem. There are mountain lions in this mountain, and the mountain lion can prey on the sheep. So the volunteer need to build out a safe shelter to protect the flock. The shelter could not be too low because a mountain lion could jump right over it and carry away the sheep. Once again, the job fell into the hands of these Northern California volunteer. They had no professional experience building an animal shelter, but they had plenty of the curiosity and love. They also had to solve another important problem. That's where would the sheep can get water. So the volunteer search for the water, dug the well, and figure out how to provide enough clean water for the entire flock. Once again, ordinary the people with the very little experience were taking on the actual responsibility because they cared.
And speaking of mountain lions, nighttime was especially frightening. The volunteers couldn't protect the sheep by themselves. They needed some full-leg partners. And that's when two large Great Pyrenees dogs came into the picture. These two beautiful dogs has once been abandoned. Great Pyrenees dogs are wonderful animals, but they grow very large. As they get older and bigger, some families decide that they no longer want them as house pets. So these two dogs were abandoned. But then something wonderful happened. The compassionate volunteers adopted them and trained them to protect the sheep. They weren't herding dogs, but they were livestock guarding dogs. Their job was to stay with the sheep and to protect them from predators. These two dogs had once been abandoned, but now at the sanctuary, they have found a new purpose. Their lives had been given a second chance. It was almost as if Their life had been recycled, and now they were able to fulfill a new purpose by protecting other lives.
The volunteers who care for these sheep that are truly inspiring. Remember, they study out knowing almost nothing about the sheep, but alone they become the caregiver for the newborn lamb, builder of the animal shelter, member of an animal medical care team, and even a caregiver who could administer IV fluid and when a sheep become sick. When a sheep become ill, they took the animal to the vet. When a sheep was about to give birth, they learned how to help with the delivered and provide postpartum care. And among these amazing volunteers, there is one person everyone called Captain Shih. Not because her last name is Yang. She is called the Captain Shih in Chinese in the pronunciation. In Chinese, the ship, the pronunciation is Yang. And the last name of the volunteer is pronounced as the Yang. Because she gave up the very comfortable and well-paid career to work full-time care for an accompanying this ship. Can you guess what she used to do? Listen.
Well,
问一下，请问杨队长，你原来是一行管羊的吗？
不是，
你是做哪一部分？
我是苹果的工程师，我是写软体的。
苹果电脑的工程师。
对，然后我
yeah, she was a highly paid senior computer engineer at Apple Computer. But because she cared so deeply about these sheep, she left her career and devoted herself to helping them. She even brought the sheep into the mountains to help clear the dry grass and the vegetation and reduce the risk of wildfires. She had no background in animal care. She started as a complete beginner, but she learned how to care for the sheep and became the true shepherd and the guardian for their lives. She wasn't only helping protect the environment, she was also practicing great compassion. She helped transform the destiny of these sheep from becoming food on someone's dinner table to becoming hero of the forest and the guardian of the mountains.
Today, I want to share this story of love and compassion with all of you. Through this story, we can see how compassion and the respect for the life came together to save more than 100 sheep. The sheep and the livestock guardian, the dog, were given a chance to live out their lives with the purpose. And at the same time, the sheep are helping protect the mountain from the wildfire. Through this environment effect, the sheep themselves have become the hero of the forest. There is something else that is very interesting. Some of the small trees and the plants on the mountain, they are poisonous to the human, but they are favorite food for the sheep. So in their own way, the sheep are even help to protect us. So the sheep are not simply animals. They need to be careful. They have to become the important partner in protecting both the people and the environment.
Yeah, so when we look at this story more deeply, we can see that this is not simply an environmental project. It is a journey of compassion, wisdom, and respect for life. These caring people saved the lives of these animals, and in return, the sheep help reduce wildfire risk by eating dry grass, weeds, and unwanted vegetation. They have become natural guardians against disasters. Some plants that the sheep love to eat can even be harmful to humans. So once again, the sheep are helping protect people. They are not simply the ones being rescued. They have become partners in protecting human beings and the mountains. This story reminds us, aren't human being and animal all part of one shared community of life? The sheep eat the grass and they help prevent wildfires. They also help clean the mountain, the land naturally. We may say that people save the sheep, but in another way, the sheep are also saving us. Isn't that what it means to be part of one interconnected community of life?
During the interview process, I was deeply touched by the compassion and the dedication of the Captain Shih and all the Fuzi Foundation volunteer. So their action inspired me so much that I work with AI to create a song as a small tribute to the Captain Shih and all these compassionate volunteers. The song is called The Guardians of the Shih. Would you like to listen it with me? Okay, let's listen together.
风吹过山谷，它带声唱，草地上羊群弯弯游荡，羊对唱的声音在阳光里闪亮，世上里用爱编织希望。没模样，经验莫退缩，野火为营，却不曾惧怕过。羊群啊，羊群啊，守护这片土，不再是餐桌上的菜落之物，用脚步清理杂草，不让火烧炉。你们是大地的温暖守护。复制的义工们手牵着手，汗水和努力塞满了山丘，把野草变成故事的桥头，这片土地因你们而长久。没有掌声，也没有讲座，但他们心里有无尽的快乐。羊群啊，羊群啊，守护这片土，不再是餐桌上的菜落之物，用脚步清理杂草，不让火烧炉。你们是大地的温暖守护。没有掌声，也没有长座，但他们心里有无尽的快乐。羊群啊，羊群啊，守护这片土，不再是餐桌上的菜落之物，用脚步清理杂草，不让火烧炉。你们是大地的温暖守护。
I believe why they are doing all this based on what they believe they are doing the right thing. As we continue to work together to protect the environment and respect all forms of life, I want to share this particular story with you today because this is more than just an environmental story. It is a story about compassion, It is a story about protecting life, and it reminds us that there are so many different ways we can care for the earth and care for all living beings. We can protect the earth through environmental action, and we can protect all living beings through compassion. I hope this story has touched your heart as it touched ours. Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Victor. We don't know how to thank you, Brother Victor, Sister Janet, for sharing such a wonderful story. And by the way, the song is as beautiful as the story. Yeah.
Next time,
Well,
probably I have to create
that's
a
right.
good
That's
song.
Okay. Well, it's so amazing the lessons that you bring with this story from just a simple action of wanting to save the ship. And my own reflection is, what Master says, Master's advice is, 对就做好了. When I meet a situation and we say, can we help? What springs to mind is, oh yeah, but we don't have this and we don't have that and we need this and we need that. The problems come in instead of just do it. And I can see that when you just do it, someone somewhere will open the door to solutions to help this process, right? That is a wonderful, wonderful thing, and I can see every step of the way, somebody will chip in and the solution will open and you can move forward. It's so touching and amazing. So when there is sincerity and compassion and love in the heart, when we take on something, it will happen and everybody will come and help us. That's my reflection for the day. Can I ask if there are other brothers and sisters who would like to share, if you have some other reflections from this amazing, wonderful story? Anybody? So, Brother Victor, you have said it all. Very, very well done. Very, very well said. Thank you very much for your sharing this morning and for being with us. We thank everybody also, brothers and sisters, this morning for your company and to stay with us every week to share and to enjoy each other's company and to support, our journey on the path, right? So I wish you here a very, very productive weekend ahead, all right? But before we end, can I ask that we stand, put our hands together, and pay homage to the Triple Gem? Let us give 3 bows. First bow, second bow, third bow, and a bow to our beloved abode masters. Okay, everybody, thank you very much and have a wonderful weekend ahead. Bye-bye.
感恩 Sister Moon， 感恩 Sister Brother Victor and Sister Janet 啊，感恩 all the sharers。
for so heartfelt sharing. And Sister Mo for wonderful hosting.
Really, the song is
Yeah.
created by AI, is it, Sister Janet? Just now you mentioned.
I love the song.
You yourself is it using? 哇，很棒哦，very good song.
Yeah, I got to. Yeah. You are all learning AI, isn't it, Ching?
Yeah, but to make it so touching, this one requires another level lah.
Yeah,
Only
the words and the melody is so wonderful.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.